All right, we're live. Hey, Rhoda, what's going on? Good morning, good afternoon to you. How you doing today?
I'm good, Carl. It's afternoon for me.
Very cool, very cool. For those people who are listening, can you tell us just who you are and where you're calling from and what you do here at Olark?
Sure thing. You said I'm Rhoda. I'm Rhoda. I live on a small island off the west coast of Scotland called Tyree. I'm about 40 miles offshore, and right now it's blowing about 45 miles an hour wind, and the rain's going at the same speed. I work in customer support for Olark, so I'm called the customer service warrior, and I like to battle my way through inboxes.
Well, you had a battle of epic proportions the other week, which is kind of why I wanted to jump on the phone with you and have a quick chat. So, as we do this time of year, the holiday hours kind of become an issue for Olark and for our customers. We like to take some time away to go see our families, and that means we're not always on chat, and we kind of scale back on some of the support we do, right? Kind of a common thing, except last week or 2 weeks ago before Thanksgiving, we had a bit of a snafu with our email client that we were using, and it caused a higher level of email volume than usual, which also resulted in a higher level of email returns than usual. So, Rhoda, you were on the front lines of having to answer emails that day, in addition to manning your chat shift. I wanted to get your first person perspective on what that day was like when you saw those emails start to roll in and realized that you and one other person had to deal with those, and how that day kind of went for you. Can you walk me through it?
Sure, yeah, it was a normal day on chat, just quietly chatting away, helping people out. And on chat, we switch between chat and desk emails just to check, make sure nothing's piling up, there aren't any major issues we need to know about, and to keep the support running smoothly. So I was just flicking backwards and forwards between chat and desk, and I suddenly realized that desk, that normally at that time in the afternoon was maybe, we have a few emails in it, was kind of overflowing. And pretty much on fire, actually. We were kind of at page 3 of the emails, and I suddenly went, whoa, we don't have an outage. What on earth is going on here? And I'll be brutally honest, my first thought was, what have marketing done? And that proved to kind of be the right thought. Marketing had done something. Yeah, so it turned out that the Thanksgiving hours email that we were sending out just as a normal bulk email, due to a different piece of software, had sent out to a hugely bigger number of people than usual, and we were getting a lot of bounce backs and auto responses. And they were all coming into our main support inbox. So there was nothing for it really, but to start resolving cases and resolve them pretty fast, because we couldn't see the wood for the trees, and they were coming in faster than we could resolve them.
So what happens? So you see that, you notice that, Ryan, who was also online at the time, kind of noticed that, and you guys dove in. But what was the conversation behind the scenes? How did the team, the people who were on support that day, identify this as an issue that really needed to be like figured out quickly, and then start to work to address that? No audio, huh? How about now?
You broke up a bit there, Carl. Can you ask the end of that question again?
Yeah, sure, no problem. Am I back now?
You are.
Ah, cool, cool. Okay. So it was you, you were on you're there on support. You see these emails coming in. It was you and another person kind of starting to notice that there was a higher than usual volume of email. And what was the conversation behind the scenes with the team on how do we address this and start to like uh, tackle this situation that was occurring? Still breaking up, huh?
I can't remember the
Oh, sorry.
I can't remember the exact conversation that we had, in terms of kind of organizing people and what they should do. It was a fairly quiet day on chat, so I felt that I could just get on and resolve things. Ryan wasn't on chat, so he jumped in. And I think generally we use chat between ourselves in the company, and we just let people in the support room know that there was a huge volume of email going on at that moment, and if anyone had any spare time to resolve emails, then it would be hugely appreciated. And people pitched in. But in the end, Ryan and I did have a bit of a competition to see who could resolve the most emails, and I just pipped him to the post. I think I was at about 706, and he was kind of 690 something. So yeah, we turned it into a game.
That's amazing. I mean, yeah. Hey, if it's a terrible situation, why not gamify it? um, what about? But so I mean, that's a ton of email volume. Like, how did you? We were talking about this earlier. Like, how do you get through those emails? What did you do to kind of like assess which ones were bounce backs or maybe out of office or maybe no longer applicable, and which ones were actual responses from customers, some of which were happy, some of which were not so happy?
You can tell fairly quickly from subject lines whether maybe an email has been returned, it's been bounced back, it'll have spam brackets around it in the response. But when it's simply a reply, maybe an auto reply from someone, you can't tell at a glance whether that is simply an auto reply or whether someone has actually replied to the email. It depends on their email settings. So I did what I always do with any inbox. I, highlighted a bunch of emails, opened them up, scrolled up, made sure that I read them and checked what those were, and then resolved as I went. And I think that's really important because there were people who actually replied to us. Some of them were delighted that we were taking Thanksgiving off and thought that was awesome. Other people maybe weren't so sure about it. And it was important that those people were reassured. And by going through each email and checking, we could then pass those concerns on to the marketing department. And I didn't reply to them. I have to say, I did just punt them off to marketing and say, deal, please. And we focused on just getting those numbers down.
That's fair. I mean, and I think that's a good idea, right? You got to load balance somehow. So you've got to take the ones that need a little bit of extra attention and give it to the other people who aren't totally preoccupied with everything else that's happening. So I thought that system worked well. It gave us the ability to like respond humanly to some people who weren't quite as happy that we were kind of going away during a busy time. So I appreciated it. I thought it worked well. I thought our customers appreciated it. Even though it was just a handful of cases, it was still good to take the time. Did chat volume go up? Did you guys notice a spike in chat volume that was kind of associated with the email?
Not that I recall, not a huge chat volume anyway. We always find whenever we send out a newsletter or an email that we do get an increase in chat volume, partly if people want to talk about the email or the contents of the email we've sent out, but also sometimes it simply reminds people that oh yeah, Olark, haven't been in there for a while. I was thinking about changing that, but I've not got around to it. And sometimes those emails just spark people's memory and they'll go and then interact with Olark. So we would expect a spike in chat whenever any newsletter goes out. This one wasn't too bad actually. I think partly because it was more of an infomercial than anything else. It would have been really interesting to see how we dealt with both chat and our desk software being sort of snowed under at the same time. Thankfully, we didn't have to. But yeah. One thing I was going to say as well about actually reading through emails and being really intentional about going through an inbox is that I was very aware that all these auto replies that were coming in were, whilst they were important, they weren't urgent. And it was really easy when you've got an inbox that's kind of going a little bit bonkers to miss things that are important and people sending you the standard emails or the standard troubleshooting emails. And it's really important to kind of keep an eye on that as well. So I always filter my inbox by the newest so that I can see what's coming in. So I knew that however many pages back I knew that all of those were sort of auto responses, and I was keeping an eye out for things that actually needed dealt with at that moment. Because whilst it was fun to race Ryan to auto resolve glory, it was also really important to get back to the customers who needed help.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. You can't get so overwhelmed, or at least so in the trenches with it, that you forget about the day-to-day support questions that are still coming in that need like in-depth help. I guess the last question I wanted to ask you too would be, okay, so someone's in your shoes. There's a holiday email getting ready to go live, and they're going to be maybe in the same situation where they've got a higher than usual volume coming in. What do you tell someone in a support or service role that would help them up manage the marketing person or the newsletter person or whoever is handling that email what would you say to how would you say, like, here, this is how you should talk to the people who are responsible for sending a newsletter so that you and them are working in conjunction to make this a better process?
Sure. I think one of the first things to do, which probably is not what happened in this case, maybe should have happened, would be to look at actually how many emails we're sending out. So what is the quantity? What is the size of this email list? And we can probably work out from there the quantity of bounce backs, also from how fresh the list is, the number of bounce backs we could expect from that. So that would be the first thing, to maybe get a sort of handle on numbers, which would also allow you to staff appropriately. So rather than just having one person checking disk, we could have had 2 or 3 ready to go. Secondly, make sure that the people on support know exactly what the content of the newsletter is, where it's being sent out, the information it has in it, where to find an unsubscribe link, because that is the most common reply that you get back to things, things that people want to know quickly. And then I think what we actually did, which happened, if we're honest about it, by accident, but I think it was actually really good, was that Ryan and I dealt with emails coming in, and you and other people in marketing gave answers to people who had genuine questions. So we were able to kind of split that up and have someone answering in a human way who wasn't absolutely bogged down and never wanted to see a Thanksgiving email again. So I think that was actually a really good plan, and it's something that we should consider for the future.
Very cool. Thanks. Right on. Well, I appreciate you sharing this experience and the insight. I don't know, somebody might listen to this and have a question for you. How can they reach you if they have a question? Just hit support and you'll be there.
Yeah, support@olark.com. I'm on chat on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, and if you Google me, you can find a contact detail for me as well. But yeah, get me through support@olark.com, and I'd be happy to answer questions. I should also point out that it probably wasn't just myself and Ryan answering these or doing these auto resolves, and a big kudos to the rest of the team who did it as well. Everyone pitched in that day, and that was awesome.
That is true. That was an all hands support day for sure. That was probably Kat and Bill, Nico. Who else am I missing? Emily, Maria, Kat, Brooke, yeah.
Brian, Peter.
Peter, yeah. That was a full team day, for sure. Very cool. Well, Rhoda, thanks very much. I appreciate it, and everybody out there, thanks for listening. Bye bye.